Welcome back everyone. Today we'll recap a Turkish supernatural horror film named Sijjin 6. Before we start, it is a request to please like and comment on the video as it will help us to grow our reach. The film begins by showing a few scenes from Sijjin 3 where Orhan couldn't accept 𝐀𝐃's demise, and with his occult knowledge, restrained a being from another realm, and forced it to live in this realm as a human in 𝐀𝐃's image. The habitats of the other domain attempted to get their daughter back. Yet Orhan halted them by utilizing his wisdom. They got payback and killed his loved ones. Now we see Orhan, who views himself as blameworthy for his slip-ups and apologizes to God for it. He takes out 𝐀𝐃's assets and says that he is prepared to suffer his wrongdoings, and afterward, he starts burning them. Suddenly there comes the apparition of his mom, who says he has submitted an extraordinary sin in the affection for his wife and killed her as well. Abruptly Orhan wakes up and it was just a nightmare. We then see a family, where everybody is giggling and kidding. However, Efsun is sitting quietly. Later, Efsun's mom Turkin comes to her room, where Efsun asks her if she is sick, to which Turkin says no. Efsun then tells her that last night she had a dream, in which Turkin hung her sister and the two sisters of Efsun. Turkin tells her that it was simply a nightmare. Then we see a lady covertly going to the cellar of their house and bearing something there. Here Efsun is sleeping in her room when out of nowhere she gets possessed. Here we see an entity on her door and it appeared as if Efsun is in charge of that entity. Her hair begins covering her face and here we see that entity above her who says something to her in another dialect. Abruptly Efsun arrives somewhere else where her whole family is sitting. Now before she could get anything, that entity haunts her, and she wakes up in her room. Then we see Efsun's father Yasnar, who tells his companion İsmet that his father's subsequent spouse needs the entirety of his father's inheritance. And for this, she has done a case against him. After some time, his companion leaves there, and afterward, Yasnar hears some sounds there and the lights go off. When he lights the torch, he sees a lady there who was saying that she will get the entire inheritance. Then a trolley brimming with stones moves toward the lady and pounds her. Yasnar gets stunned and runs towards her where she says that she is tormenting his daughter because of his wife. He then sees Efsun in demonic form. Then his chief comes there and nothing was there. Now we see Yasar's dad Bahin dozing in his room when unexpectedly he hears the voice of his dead spouse, which awakens him in dread. After which he pounds his hand on the bits of blades. Here Turkin hears her daughters running and chuckling, hearing which she comes downstairs. She observes Bahin in the kitchen, who tells her that her girls are outside. She comes out and hears their giggling from the cellar. She sees that Yagmar is wearing a bunny cover and she is pointing at one spot. There she sees Damla walking around behind Efsun wearing a bunny cover and during this, she is likewise singing a melody. Suddenly Efsun grabs her neck, and it was just a nightmare. Next, she goes to her daughter's room and sees that they are sleeping. Yet, when she goes to Efsun's room, Efsun is awake and says that she isn't feeling well. Next, Efsun comes to Bahin's room where she asks him for what reason he cut his hand, to which he says nothing. Then Efsun tells him that last night she saw her entire family pass on. Here Bahin hears the voice of his dead spouse, which makes him panic and his medication falls. When he bends down to get them, Efsun tells him there is a terrible thing inside her that murmurs to her. Suddenly the ghost of Efsun and her grandma haunts him. Seeing that Bahin gets extremely frightened, Efsun calms him down and makes him sit on the chair. Here Efsun grins and tells him not to be apprehensive. Grandma will come. Next, we see Turkin cooking, when she sees a piece of a blade in it. Then she observes more pieces in it in which a few letters were composed. Now before she could understand anything, Bahin's ghost haunts her, fearing that she falls. She then gets up and sees that those pieces were not there. Here Yasar is at work when he hears a lady crying. He goes inside following the voice and sees a lady crying with her head towards the wall. When he goes to her, it is Janan's ghost, who tells him that she prayed that her sister would die and that she may have him. Then she spews blood on him. However, his companion has poured water on him. Next, we see Janan in the hospital when she sees Turkin and her daughter's ghost covered in blood. Turkin tells her that she has accomplished something exceptionally terrible. Janan gets exceptionally terrified, and when her companion comes there, everything was normal there. Here Turkin hears somebody crying outside her home. When she heads outside, she sees Janan crying there. She tells Turkin that she saw Sijjin killed Damla and Yagmar. Turkin requests her to stop telling her all this, when her girls come there and ask her who is she talking to. Amazingly, nobody is there, and afterward, Janin comes from outside. Here Bahin enters a room where he sees the apparition of his wife lying in the bed, who asks him to turn on the TV. Bahin turns on the TV, and she says he attempted to kill her, and since she was in huge torment. However, he was unable to make it happen. For a long time, she lived in dread that when he would come to kill her, and she died from that pain. She then asks him to lift the blanket, and when he does so, he sees his wife's head there. It gets covered with a plastic pack, and afterward, the TV switches off, and now there is nobody there. On the other hand, Efsun is sleeping in her room when we see that entity slithering there, and suddenly it comes on top of her, and she reaches somewhere where her family's carcasses are lying. Then a lot of entities begin creeping there. Seeing that, Efsun begins screaming and abruptly awakens from sleep. She then sees the entity in her room, with which she sees her evil structure. Then we see Orhan is doing a custom, where he requests the jinns to leave him alone, and during this, he begins having visions in which he sees 𝐀𝐃. He likewise sees Efsun, and finds himself in an unusual spot. Suddenly her mother's ghost appears there, to whom he says to leave him alone, and leaves from there. Then we see Efsun, who is going into the cellar of the house. She digs the ground where she finds a jar. We then see that possessed Efsun had brought Yasnur's dead dad to her stepmother's home. Efsun says that this woman wanted to kill Yasnur's genuine mother and snatch all the inheritance after her demise. But it didn't go as planned. On the other hand, Janin hears some sounds and she begins moving towards the almirah. Just then Efsun passes behind her and the almirah door opens, from which the toys begin falling. Now those toys covered in the blood begin moving toward her, saying that she is not going to have children. Janin gets exceptionally terrified, and afterward, Efsun carries a kid to her and Janin awakens from her sleep. Next, Yasser's stepmother goes to Ħaġa and asks him for help. However, Ħaġa tells her that he had told her that it was dangerous. He says that he told her that when you curse someone it could backfire. Now she comes to the cellar of their home to get the container, when Efsun asks her if she is searching for the jar, and tells her that now she can't stop her from destroying her. Here Bahin sees his wife's ghost perched on the chair and calling out to him, whose voice is coming from his hearing gadget. She gradually begins moving toward him and says she is behind him, and suddenly she begins choking him with a plastic bag. Next, we see Orhan at his mother's grave, where Bahin's funeral is occurring on the opposite side. Here Orhan faculties Efsun's inward jinn and advises him to leave her alone. Now we see that Turkin has accompanied her girls to her sister's home for a couple of days, yet Efsun isn't with her. Here in the house, Yasnur observes a photograph in Janin's room, and Efsun is grinning seeing him from outside. Next, we see Efsun again in the cellar and Orhan standing outside her home, thinking about why he has come here. All at once, the cellar's door opens and Orhan walks in. He sees his mother there, who says that she passed on account of his adoration for 𝐀𝐃. Then Efsun comes from behind him and starts conversing with him in 𝐀𝐃's voice. Orhan understands Jin's tricks and comes out from there. Now we see Janin crying in the storeroom of the hospital when she begins seeing everything foggy. Abruptly her mother, Turkin, and Efsun's ghost torment her there and kills her. Orhan on the other hand goes to the imam, who lets him know that when a jinn models for a guiltless body, he turns out to be extremely powerful. He says that it was no incident that he met Efsun at the graveyard. He met her to help her or to confront his own fears. In the interim, Orhan sees his mom's ghost there, and out of nowhere the imam's demonic form grabs his neck and tells him that he cannot deal with demons he doesn't understand. But it was just a vision. After this, Orhan obliterates 𝐀𝐃's belongings by burning them. Then we see Damla and Yagmur go to the well. From inside they hear Efsun's voice advising them to jump inside, and the two of them hop. Turkin awakens from sleep and sees that the girls are not with her, so she goes out to find them, where she sees the two of them close to the well. Then they begin running from there and enter a building. Turkin follows them and sees that the place is very weird. She begins seeing peculiar things there, because of which she gets exceptionally terrified. She then hears her girls chuckling under a bedsheet, and when she lifts the sheet, she sees Efsun there, who was looking extremely terrifying, and she kills Turkin. Here we see Orhan face to face with Efsun, whom he asks what he needs from this girl. Here Jin in the form of Efsun tells him that she was 3 years of age when her parents passed on, after which Yasser and Turkin adopted her. Now as they didn't have offspring of their own, they used to love her a lot. Later when Turkin had 2 girls of her own, she wanted to get rid of her, and Janin helped Turkin in this. She gave lead powder to Turkin and told her to continue to blend it into her food and she will die gradually. Jin then tells him that Yasar's stepmother did black magic to kill Yasar in the greed of snatching all the inheritance. However, she opened a door from which one entity came here, and that entity decides to kill everybody. Jin says that he is not the only one that tortured her. Her mom likewise attempted to kill her, and her aunt who was jealous of her mom helped her. Now Orhan says that this girl has suffered a lot already and asks him to leave her alone. But when Jin denies it, Orhan begins reading prayers and we see that he has come into another realm. He asks Jin to show his face and tell him his name. He reveals his name is Yazidra. Orhan says that he reserves no privilege to get this body to this realm, on which Jin says that he did likewise when 𝐀𝐃 passed on. He also had stolen somebody from this realm and made her his wife in his realm. Orhan asks him to leave Efsun's and take his body since he is a sinner. All at once, Jin screams loudly and Orhan gets shocked, after which numerous entities start crawling toward him. Now here we see the battle between Orhan's confidence in God and Satan's power, where Satan is trying his best to possess him. However, Orhan is battling him based on his belief in God. Lastly, Orhan's confidence in God wins and, furthermore, the Jin gets destroyed. Efsun then becomes totally normal, and we see Turkin's sister saves her girls from hopping into the well. Afterward, Yasar and Efsun bring them back home. In the last, Orhan proceeds to threaten Ħaġa as well, after which the film closes. Please like and subscribe to my channel and click the bell icon never to miss new video updates. Thanks for watching!